2 months later, I had another cyst, same side, and it was really bad. It was getting like huge. They had to do another emergency surgery. He's like, if there's endo, I'll just remove it again. I'm like, cool. Every single time I woke up from these surgeries, I was told that it didn't even look like they had done anything before because it had already grown back so fast.
What's up, ladies? Welcome to class, and welcome back to another episode of Her Story. Today, we are joined by Amanda Martinez, a warrior who has spent years navigating the complex, often misunderstood landscape of endometriosis and adenomyosis. Amanda's journey is a powerful testament to the necessity of self-advocacy in the medical system that often lacks the answers patients deserve. Her story isn't just about a diagnosis. It's a years-long battle spanning 8 surgeries, multiple ablations, the heartbreak of failed fertility treatments, and ultimately, a hysterectomy. But beyond the clinical history, Amanda is here to pull back the curtain on the hidden parts of this disease. The trauma of medical negligence, the ego of the operating room, and the emotional reality of recovering in a maternity ward after losing your own chance at fertility. If you also struggle with endometriosis or adenomyosis, or you suspect that you do, I know that this episode is going to hit home for you. Amanda's story is truly one of strength and resilience, and she has turned her pain into power. So I hope you guys enjoy. Amanda, welcome to class.
Hi, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. I'm so excited we finally got to do this. We originally had wanted to record this in March for Endometriosis Awareness Month, and then I got in a bitch fight with my internet company, and we had to reschedule. So I'm gonna try to get this out like next week, actually, but I'll keep
It's
you posted
okay.
there. But
Whatever.
yeah, I'm really, really excited to have you here. We met through TikTok, which
Mhm.
I love. I feel like I've met so many of like my endometriosis friends through TikTok.
Yeah.
And you've been dealing with endometriosis and adenomyosis for years now. So take us back to the beginning, what your symptoms were like and how a cyst eventually ended up in your endo diagnosis.
Yeah, I would love to. Thank you for having me too. This is so
Of course.
exciting. um, so looking back, I feel like I had symptoms way earlier than I initially realized. Um, like when I was even 5 or 6, I used to get like these stomach aches in the morning or after brushing my teeth. Like it was really weird that it would happen then. Um, but I kind of brushed it off. And then now that I'm talking to more people, I kind of think that those little stomach aches might have had something to do with it. Of course, I don't really know. But
Right.
I started getting like my initial um like big endo symptoms, I guess, when I was about 11. And that's when I started my period. So it kind of goes hand in hand. Um I was sick all the time. Like I had cramps really bad, just like everybody else tends to have. But I was also sick all the time. Like I used to get bronchitis and colds and stuff constantly. I even still get them all the time. It's crazy. Um, so I ended up going to a doctor when I was 11, and he ended up just saying that I probably had a weaker immune system. That's why I was always sick. And he put me on birth control on the Depo shot. And he just told me that should totally help me. I'll be good. Everything's great, right? But the crazy part is before I left the appointment, he told me that I probably had endometriosis, but it was nothing to worry about. So that
Right.
like is so weird. Um he said I don't need to worry about it. I can look into it when I get older if I have trouble getting pregnant or anything like that. But then at the same time, in that same appointment, he told me I was too young to be sick. So kind of crazy. It's really
I love
frustrating looking
that.
back.
Love that excuse. It's so lazy.
Yeah, yeah. And I didn't know at the time. I mean, I was like 11, so what do?
Right.
You don't know.
You're like, I am young. I shouldn't be sick all the time. Let me just
Exactly.
think my way out of it. Like, it doesn't change the facts, though, you
No,
know?
no.
Yeah,
It's crazy. And there's kids that have cancer, like, so you're too young to be sick?
exactly. Yes. Yeah. I
So
just did an
weird.
interview where we were talking about that because she had a family history of breast cancer and was really like has to fight tooth and nail to get them to do screenings because she's in her 20s.
Yeah.
And it's like,
That's
kids have
insane.
cancer, so how are you telling this 20-year-old that with a family history she's too young for cancer? So, yeah, the too young excuse really grinds my gears, but go
It's
on.
everybody's excuse. So
Yeah.
everybody's. But it's so frustrating because now I look back and I'm like, man, I was gaslit from 11 years old, maybe even before that.
Mhm,
So it just infuriates me. Um, so over the years, like my symptoms, they were just getting worse and worse. Like I had some days where I had like full body aches, like the endo flu, which I know is now a thing.
mhm,
My stomach was always upset. I did everything. I got all the scans, the blood work, I even did a colonoscopy, like everything when I was like, I think I did all that stuff when I was like 18 or 19, and everything came back normal. So, of course it did.
yep, always.
Yeah. And then they ended up just diagnosing me with IBS, which I feel like is incredibly common in the endo community. So
Yeah,
I feel like when they can't figure it out, they go to IBS. So
mhm, exactly.
so crazy. So when I was around 20, I ended up having an abnormal pap smear and I was referred to an OBGYN. And that actually ended up being the best thing that could have happened because I was then diagnosed with cervical cancer from that abnormal pap smear. And I was taken seriously because it was a diagnosis. So I was treated right away. I thought, okay, cool. Maybe this is the reason why I've been so sick all these years. Um, but even after I was treated, after all was said and done, I still felt like crap. So that's when I knew like something else was going on.
Mhm,
Um, I ended up I ended up getting an ovarian cyst, and it was like the size of a grapefruit. It was huge. So I had to go in for emergency surgery for that. And I went in with my OBGYN. He did the surgery. Um, when I woke up, he told me that he removed the cyst. That was all great. My ovaries were still there, so that's amazing. And that I had endometriosis everywhere. But um that he removed as much of it as he could. So, I was like, "Okay, cool,
mm,
thanks." I didn't know what it was. So,
right, yeah,
yeah, I mean, if you don't know the word, you don't know the
mhm,
word. So
mhm, and I think a lot of us didn't even know until later in life because everything was just brushed off as, like, either a normal part of being a woman or
Mhm.
IBS, like you said, which is such a Band-Aid like irritable bowel syndrome, it's just a description of what's going on. It
Yeah,
is not a real diagnosis, and I know that's like a hot take, and I'm not at all like dismissing these symptoms of IBS, like those are very real, but I would put my life on the fact that there's always something else going on to cause IBS, and that IBS itself is not an excuse to stop investigating from a medical
yeah,
perspective. You know what I mean? Yeah.
yeah. They
Yeah.
just want a label so they don't have to look
Mhm.
anymore. So they could be like, "Oh, we figured
Exactly.
it out. Here you go."
Mhm, and I feel the same way about dysmenorrhea.
Yeah.
That's not a real diagnosis, and more often than not, like, I would say an overwhelming majority of the cases and of course, we don't have solid numbers on this, but I would say an
Mhm.
overwhelming majority of dysmenorrhea cases were endometriosis or adenomyosis or fibroids or
Mhm.
PCOS, like, something else. Yeah, because I
For
just don't think it's
sure.
real.
No,
Yeah,
no, it's just
yeah.
they don't know, so they put it on there. It's
Exactly, they need
crazy.
something to say, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think that it's also when you were talking about those stomach issues you had in childhood, I think that's, like, really relatable for a lot
Mhm.
of people because I talked about this on my TikTok recently of I was so constipated as a child, and I was only, like, pooping a couple times a week, not to, give too much information, but
Yeah.
it
So
really wasn't much at all, and every time they would feel around my stomach, it'd be like, "Oh, yeah, you're really backed up here," but nobody ever thought that it was a concern. They were like, "Has it always been this way?" That was always the question of like, "Well, has this is this a change or is this just consistent with what, you've lived up to this point?" I'm like,
yeah.
"I'm like 8 years old." And I'm like, "It's just always been that way." And so they're like,
Okay.
"Okay, nothing to worry about." And it's like, I guess at that age, like, there wasn't really anything for me in my situation to be, like, extremely worried about, because I ended up getting diagnosed with stage 1, so it's not like my organs were
Mhm.
being glued together or anything, but they didn't know
Still,
that. Like,
yeah, it could have been
yeah.
anything too. Could have been something much worse, you know?
Mhm. Yeah,
So,
and
oh,
yeah.
so bad. That
Mhm.
sucks.
It's true. And
Yeah.
I think that's something that a lot of the endo girlies go through is they're like, "Yep, I've always." And, I also have a whole theory on this of the when people say hot girls have stomach problems, like how that was like a whole thing, and they
Yeah.
did that study, that infamous study that's since been redacted that everyone talks about of like when they studied the attractiveness of people with endometriosis.
Nuts.
And we're hotter than everybody else. And I'm like, yeah, hot girls have stomach problems because they have endometriosis.
That's so crazy. I
I
can't believe
know.
that's a real thing. I had to look that
I
up because 'cause I'm
know.
like, "That's not real." Oh, it's real.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
crazy. Um,
Yes. Well, back to your story. We obviously know there's a crazy amount of misinformation out there about
yeah,
endometriosis. So, at the beginning, when you got that diagnosis, were you told anything about the disease? Was it presented accurately to you now, like in hindsight?
no. It
No.
wasn't, no, I was so happy because I finally had an answer, which is great,
Mhm.
but, um and I knew that it wasn't just all in my head and it wasn't just IBS, you know?
Right.
So, I ended up having 3 ablation surgeries total. It was through my OBGYN, and he, he didn't he didn't really expand on it too much. You know, he just said
Mhm.
that he could do surgery on it, and that he would do as much as he could, and that was
Right.
it. So I didn't think any more about it because 'cause I'm like, "Okay, cool," because they should be the ones to know everything, right?
Right, yeah, you, like, should be able to trust your
Mhm.
surgeon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so it was like 2 months after that first surgery, he did ablation with the cyst removal also. So,
Mm,
2 months later, I had another cyst, same side, and it was really bad. It was getting, like, huge. I don't remember how big it was, but, they had to do another emergency surgery. So, we go in for that one. He's like, "If there's endo, I'll just remove it again." I'm like, "Cool." After every every single time I woke up from these surgeries, I was told that it didn't even look like they had done anything before because it had already grown back so fast.
my
So,
god.
and then I ended up having a third ablation surgery within like a year of that surgery.
Mhm,
So, I go in and I'm thinking that everything is going to be totally fixed and that I'll be good to go and everything. But, that just wasn't the reality.
mhm.
Um, and if anything, the pain after all the ablation surgeries, it got a lot worse because it kind of pisses the endo off because it's not removing everything. So,
Right.
I know that's not for everybody, but a lot of us, we have that happen. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yes, because I do get comments a lot. So for people listening who maybe haven't, like, heard any of either of our content before or know the difference, an ablation is like burning the tissue, and the problem is
Mhm.
it doesn't actually remove anything, and it can sometimes also burn healthy tissue around the endo, and especially for, like, really extreme cases like you had. Yeah, that's like you said, pissing it off. Like, I
Yeah.
always say it's like lighting a fire on fire, whereas excision is considered to be the gold standard treatment, and it's actually cutting the disease out, removing it
Mhm.
from the root. And, theoretically, if it's done correctly, endometriosis, it can still continue to grow back. It's not a cure, but in that spot, like, that lesion is supposed to be gone.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and it can continue to grow in other places and stuff, but that particular, like, lesion is supposed to be gone. But like you said, with, them it looking like they never did anything because it, like, grew back, it's like,
Yeah.
well, you didn't actually remove it, so it makes a lot of sense
That's why it grew
logically that
back.
it. Right.
Yeah.
So that is the main concern with ablation, is this recurrence rate, because even with excision, chances are you're gonna need another surgery, and they say 3 to 5 years, but with ablation, it can be as quick as a couple months. like
Yeah.
in your case.
Hello.
And so that's really
Yeah.
it's scary that there's doctors out there doing that. So did you even know at this point that excision was an option or like it wasn't
No.
even presented?
No, I didn't know any of that, and after that 3rd surgery, I remember thinking, like, "This can't be my life. Like, this can't be real
Mhm.
right now."
Mhm.
So, that was kind of, like, my breaking point because 'cause I'm like, "This is crazy to have, like, 3 surgeries within about a year. That's
Mhm.
insane."
Yeah.
So I ended up doing my own research. I went on like Facebook, went into endo groups, all of that stuff. And then that's when I learned about excision surgery was from those endo groups. Um, and that's how I actually met my best friend too, which is crazy.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's great.
I yeah, well, I kinda wanna dig into that a little bit deeper because I think that's
Yeah.
another thing that's really relatable for a lot of us is finding out from the internet or a TikTok or whatever that
Yeah.
your surgeon wasn't actually qualified to operate for your disease or that they told you just blatantly incorrect information, and you're like, at first you're like, I can't believe everything I see on the internet. I should trust my surgeon. And then
Right,
you
for
dive
sure.
deeper and you're like, wait a second. Like, I can't, like, it's such a mind fuck. So, can you take
For
us,
sure.
yeah, take us back to that moment where you were like, oh my God, wait a second.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I didn't know that there were specialists for this. I didn't even know much about it at the time, like, I didn't know any of this. So, yeah, I was like, "Wait, like, this is so there's other things, like, other ways to deal with this?" Um, and it's just, like, such a huge problem because people have all these surgeries, multiple surgeries, and they're doing it in not the best way,
Mhm.
and it's a huge problem because people are making these life-changing decisions with incorrect information. It
Yeah.
sucks. Um, but I ended up getting really lucky because of all those groups and just talking to people, um, and yeah, they still spread so much misinformation in the groups and stuff, but I
Mhm.
was kind of, like, learning based on the some information that was being regularly
Mhm.
said, and then I would, like, dig
Yes.
into it more deeper, um,
Right.
and just talk to people more so, like, who I felt
Yeah.
like had more experience with endo.
Mhm.
So that's kind
Yeah.
of how I figured it out. Because there's even people now that are like, "Oh, yeah, I just had surgery, and it took me 2 weeks to heal." And it's like, "Well, what kind of surgery did you have? Was it ablation or excision?" And they're like,
Mhm.
"Oh, I don't
Mhm.
know." I'm like, "Well, it's probably ablation."
Right.
So I ended up finding out that there was an excision surgeon in my area, and not only that, but that accepted insurance. So and that is
Wow.
huge. Like,
Mhm.
even now, it's
Yeah.
huge because this was, like, 15 years ago, something like that.
Yeah.
So, I felt really lucky because I was able to get in with that surgeon. It took a few months because I had to, wait. I was a new patient and stuff. And what I always tell people too, because some people get so anxious about it where they're like, "Well, I'm gonna have surgery with my OBGYN because they can get me in next week instead of
Mhm.
waiting 3 months to get in with a specialist." And it's like, well, that's not the
Y
best idea,
yeah.
but okay.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I do feel because I feel for that, like,
Mhm.
I get it, but it's also not something that I would want to mess with, and then here's the thing, even if your OBGYN does say that they're going to do an excision, I say this all the time, I, like, am fairly certain that if my regular OBGYN who doesn't specialize in endometriosis was the one to do my surgery, they would have sewed me back up, and I would have woken up, and they would have said, "You don't have endo." Because it was so difficult to see, like, looking through the pictures and everything. It
Yeah.
doesn't like, obviously, there's really extreme cases, like yourself, but it's not always as obvious when
Mhm.
you're actually, like, inside,
Yeah.
and that would have been so devastating. Like, if I had somebody be like, "No, we didn't find anything," I would have been like, "Well, fuck me."
Yeah, and I get that because it happens all the time, and it
Yeah.
sucks, it sucks.
Mhm.
I feel so bad.
Mhm. Yeah.
I feel like most people that have these symptoms, though, they end up actually having endo.
Mhm.
Even if
Yeah,
they're like, "Oh, it wasn't found." Well, maybe you should get a second opinion. Did they take pictures?
exactly.
Did they do biopsies? No,
Mhm.
no. Well,
Yeah. I was talking to somebody the other day where she was fairly like, she was pretty insistent that she saw a specialist, but she said
mhm.
that they didn't send anything to a lab. And I was like, "That doesn't sound like a specialist because who's not sending a biopsy? You're cutting it out anyway. Why are you not sending a biopsy to a lab?"
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, that was, like, a little bit but I don't wanna be I'm like, I hate I, like, want to spread the information and make sure people have, like, the right information, but I'm
Right.
also like, "Oh my god," like, I can't imagine if I was in this person's shoes and I was conversing with somebody, and no matter how nicely you say it, it's still, like, your heart drops. Like,
Yeah.
"Wait a second." So, yeah, and how did that feel for you, like, when you did like, what was that feeling like when you were like, "Wait a second, my surgeons weren't actually qualified." Did it hit you all at once, or was it kind of like a gradual thing as you learned?
No, I think it was more kind of gradual because I don't think I went back to that OBGYN. I mean, I've been back to him. He's great for, like, general care. I still go to him, but I
Mhm.
didn't go back to him for endo after that because
Right.
I made an appointment with Doctor Hibner and got in with him,
Mhm.
and I think that appointment is when it kinda hit me more so that this is really a big deal
Mhm.
because I went to that first initial appointment and Doctor Hibner was like, "How much do you know about endometriosis?" And I'm like, "I don't know much, like, at
Yeah.
all." And he goes,
Mhm.
"Okay." And he sat there with me for an hour, like, talking to me about it and explaining
Wow.
everything, and I was like, "Oh my god." But I feel like that was amazing, like, not
Mhm.
everybody does that. So,
No,
that was eye-opening, and it was really overwhelming then, at that point. So,
I can imagine.
so
And
much.
I think that the when people finally do get in with like an actual real specialist, they do feel so validated. Like my specialist was the
Mhm.
first one to say, like, yes, it seems pretty likely
Mhm.
that you have endo based on your symptoms. She was the first one that was like, actually explained everything to me, sat with me longer, answered the questions. It just was
Yeah.
like such a healing appointment that yeah, like an excision is like we said, the gold standard treatment, but it's almost just that emotional side of it that's like
Mhm.
10 times more healing than
Um,
anything else.
yeah,
And that's
for
why
sure.
it's so heartbreaking that so many
Mhm.
people are being told just straight up lies about it. And when you did get into a specialist then, was it difficult for you since you had gone through like multiple surgeries with somebody who wasn't truly qualified? Like, was it really difficult for you to trust, like regain that trust in the medical system, or were you like, "Oh, I can see the clear difference?"
Yeah, no, I was like, "Okay, so he knows what he's talking about," especially because he sat there and talked to me for so long about it and explained
Mhm.
everything. I was like, "Oh, that makes so much sense now," like,
Mhm.
okay.
Mhm.
So, so I felt like I really trusted him after that appointment. And after I had my first excision surgery with him and with Doctor Hibner, it was supposed to take an hour because he's like, "You just had ablation surgery." It was, like, within the year. And he's like, "So I
Mhm.
don't know how much is actually gonna be there, you know? So
Right.
maybe an hour or so, maybe 2," and
Mhm.
it ended up taking 4 hours total.
Wow.
So, I think they had to push back the next surgery too, which sucks.
Mhm.
So,
But,
yeah.
I was a surgery that was pushed back, like, mine was, like, 2 hours later, but I was like, "I don't care. Take your
Yeah.
time, like, do a thorough job."
Yeah. Yeah, get it
Yeah.
done, like, do
Yes.
it,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's, like, when I realized how extensive my case was at that point, because he's
Mhm.
like, "We found it here, we found it there," like, my I believe my left ovary was a yeah, my left ovary was attached to the left side of my abdominal wall, like, it
Mhm.
was crazy, it was everywhere, and I'm like,
Mhm.
"They just did surgery. How is
Was
this
it
happening?" But
right? Was it
yeah.
contained within your pelvis,
Um,
or did it go extra pelvis?
no, I I don't remember for that one if
Okay.
it was just in my pelvis or not. It might have already gone up to my diaphragm at that point, but I
Mhm.
can't remember exactly. So,
Okay.
that
It's hard
was
to keep track.
so long ago. I know, yeah, and I've had 8 surgeries now, so I'm like, "I don't
Right.
know what I did. I don't know what
Yeah.
happened."
Yeah.
Um, and then so after that, Dr. Hibner was like, "If you wanna have kids, this might be the time to start doing it because like,
Mhm.
your case is extensive," and I'm just being honest with you. You might
Mhm.
wanna do that if that's what you wanna do. So, um, I ended up we ended up going to a fertility doctor and then found out that there were issues on my side and his side. So, that was
Okay.
fabulous.
That's yeah, that's a punch in
So,
the gut
yeah, yeah.
for sure.
So
And that's
crazy.
definitely yeah, I definitely wanna dive into the fertility thing as well. I think a lot of women um, you know, go through that, especially with endometriosis. It's
Mhm.
some like what 50% of infertility cases are
Something.
linked to endo. It's an insane number.
Mhm.
But first, I want to clarify when did adenomyosis come on the scene? Like, was that diagnosis lumped in with endo, or was it after
Mm-mm.
you got with a specialist?
It was later. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was later. It wasn't at this point yet.
Okay.
So, yeah, I was lucky again because I feel like I was lucky again because at that point so I was going to a fertility doctor. I was going to Dr. Hibner for my excision surgeries, and then I had a cardiologist because I was born with dilated cardiomyopathy. And they were all in communication with each other, which is amazing
Oh, that's
because that
great.
does not happen.
Not very often,
So,
though.
no, no. So I was super, super thankful for that. Um, I ended up not getting pregnant, and so I went back in to have another excision surgery, like, to get a clean slate, so to speak.
Hmm.
So, at my pre-op appointment, I had asked Dr. Hibner, I'm like, I feel like something else is wrong. Like, something else is going on. I don't know what it is, but could you take biopsies of my uterus? And we kind of went back and forth a little bit. And then he was like, yeah, I'll do it in the surgery. I'm like, okay, great. So um, after that surgery, like, the next morning, he came into my hospital room, which was kind of weird for him because, he would come in after surgery, but not, like, the day after. So,
Hmm.
I was like he came in, he sat on the edge of my bed, and he's like, "Okay, this is what happened. Like, you had such extensive endo, it took this long, but we got rid of, what we could find and everything." Um, and I ended up taking 6 biopsies. And he's like, "Originally, I was just gonna do 2, but I figured because you're doing fertility treatments and everything, I would just do 6." And he took them from all different places of the uterus. He's like, "They all came back positive for adenomyosis." And I'm like, "Oh, that sucks."
Oh my God.
So, yeah, that was crappy, and I'm like, "So what do I do?" And he's like, like, it's kind of up to you on what you wanna do." Like, he's like, "I support you no matter what you wanna do."
Hmm.
But he's like, I had been talking to him prior about going into IVF, and then I'm like, "That's a lot of money if it's not gonna
Hmm.
happen," kinda thing. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
so then I was like, "Okay, can I just have a hysterectomy right now?" 'Cause I'm like, "Why
Hmm.
deal with all this and why go through all this
Hmm.
if the likelihood of it happening isn't very large?" You
Right.
know?
Hmm.
Um So, to his credit, he told me he was like, "You need to slow down, like, think about it, give yourself time to process it, don't do
Yeah.
it right away, just, kinda sit with it." He's like, "You can
Hmm.
still get pregnant, and you could still have a healthy pregnancy, but just the likelihood of it isn't,
Hmm.
great. It's not in
Right.
your favor, but you could still do it, so whatever you wanna do, let me know." Um So that next Monday I called and I scheduled my hysterectomy because I didn't wanna wait anymore.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
because 'cause I'm like, "This is so crazy, like, I'm in so much pain all the time, like, I don't wanna still be in this pain if I can help it." And, of course, you
Hmm.
don't know if the hysterectomy is gonna help or not, but, it's like, this is the best bet I have right now. So
Right. And it's, I mean, it's horrible that that's like one of our only
Mhm.
options. And obviously we say all the time, like, because it's a big misconception that hysterectomies cure endo, but obviously at this point you're with a specialist, so you
Yeah,
weren't, under that false pretense. Because I do know that there
correct.
are so many women out there who remove an organ under false information from their doctor, which
Yeah.
is so horrible. But um it can be really amazing for symptom management for
Yeah,
a lot of people. So,
for sure, for
has that been
sure.
your experience?
Yeah, he did tell me, he was like, "There's no guarantee that you're gonna feel any better." He's like, "I think you
Mhm,
will, but I'm not making any guarantees." And he was always very honest with me about everything and just like, "We're gonna do this, and
mhm,
hopefully this works." And he's like, "But you might get so much relief that it's day and night difference too.
right.
So we don't know." And
Yeah.
that's what kinda sucks because 'cause you're just like, "Okay, I'll
Mhm,
try this and we'll see what happens." I think that is a huge misconception too, is like, people will get a hysterectomy and they're told to do it for endometriosis, and then they feel better and they're like, "Oh, so I'm cured." And it's like, "No, you're not cured. You
yeah,
just your symptoms
yeah,
have gone down. It's not that you're cured."
I know.
So, it's
Wish it
crazy.
was.
I
Well, but
know.
with adenomyosis, right, it does
Mhm.
effectively remove. So for people listening who maybe
Exactly.
don't know, adenomyosis is contained in the uterus, whereas endo is everywhere else.
Not. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so if a whole bunch of symptoms were coming from adeno, then that's definitely a situation where it could be much more relieving to get it out. I guess at that point, by the time you got an adenomyosis diagnosis also, it was more like later in the game.
Mhm.
So did you ever
Yeah.
kind of were you able, once you did get a hysterectomy, were you able to kind of differentiate like what symptoms were linked more so to adeno, or was it
I don't know. I
no?
was actually just thinking about this yesterday because I was trying to put a video together about the differences between adeno and endo, like, symptom-wise, and I'm like, "Man, like, so many of them just, like, overlap."
Mhm.
And,
Mhm.
and some of them, I mean, I still have some symptoms now, and I know they're not as extreme as they were before at all,
Mhm.
but then I do know that, like, I used to have that really heavy uterus feeling, and that's gone, like, obviously, but
Right.
it's just so hard because some of them just overlap. It's
Mhm.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
At
Yeah.
least for me. I know everybody's so different with their experiences and stuff, but
Right. But
it's
yeah,
hard.
they definitely, yeah, if you when you
Yeah.
just look at the list of symptoms, they're pretty much exactly the same. And I would say
Yeah.
I don't have adeno, but based on what I've heard, that heavy uterus feeling is like one of the key differences. But that can still happen with endo if it's like,
Right.
pulling your uterus down. So
Yeah.
it's a toss up. But so
Yeah.
let's go back. You decide to get the hysterectomy, which
Mhm.
I can imagine was like a fairly emotional decision. Did
Yeah, that
you
sucked.
were you like, because the way that you spoke about it seemed quite confident. Were you that
Mhm.
confident in the moment, or were you like, I don't know if I'm gonna regret
No. I
this?
didn't know. I
Yeah.
didn't know.
Mhm.
And I was also thinking, I'm like, "Man, if I do get pregnant, let's say I do get pregnant, how am I gonna take care of a kid and I feel like this all the time?" Because even if I did get pregnant and then I had a hysterectomy directly after, um, I don't know if it's gonna make any difference. So what if
Mhm.
I'm still the exact same way right now, even after the hysterectomy?
Mhm.
Like, what do I do?
Yeah.
That kinda
Yeah.
sucks. So I wasn't very confident, but I was hopeful that it
Mhm.
would do something. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, we were doing fertility treatments up until the day of surgery. Like right before that. I even took a pregnancy test
Imagine.
in the morning because I'm like, well, if I am pregnant, then it's meant to be,
Mhm.
kind of thing, in a way. That's what I was
Right.
telling myself
Yeah.
anyway. So,
Yeah. I mean, I totally yeah, I totally believe in that stuff. I think, if it yeah,
yeah.
like signs and stuff, like,
Yeah,
you'll
yeah.
get signs
Right,
if it
right.
was. if the universe was like, no, don't do this, you would have.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, would
I
have
think I was
not.
so desperate for any signs. I was like, "Okay, I'm just
Mhm.
telling myself
Mhm.
this and whatever."
Mhm.
Pregnancy test was negative. They also do pregnancy tests when you go in for the surgery too.
Right.
Um, so I ended up going in for the surgery, and, um, to go back a little bit, I in my pre-op for that appointment, I had told Dr. Hibner, I was like, "Can you put me somewhere else, like oncology?" Because
Mhm.
they, at least at the hospital I was at, and I know a lot of other people, it's the same thing, they would put me in like the women's/maternity ward. And I'm like, "That's too much." So, and he's like, "Yeah, we'll put you in oncology," because I was in oncology for another surgery with him too. So,
Mhm.
um, and so I get out of surgery. It was crazy when I got up from surgery because, like, I felt, even being so drugged up and everything, I didn't feel as sick anymore. And it's like the weirdest feeling. Like,
Interesting.
I don't even know how to describe it, but I was just like, God, I just don't feel as, like, my body doesn't feel as sick anymore. So,
Wow.
um, so obviously it needed to go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
Like,
sure
for
that was
sure.
probably a little relieving in the moment too of like, okay,
Yeah.
there's something here.
Right, right, for sure. Um, and even with other endo surgeries too, they put everybody in the women's/maternity ward if you're gonna stay the
Mhm.
night, at least at this one. And he wanted me to stay a night, maybe 2 nights, just to for pain management and everything. Um, so my surgeon made a note in my chart, like a few different notes saying I needed to go to meaning that I needed to go to oncology after. So
Mhm.
I wake up and they were like, "Okay, we're gonna bring you to your room." And I'm like, "I'm going to oncology, right?" And they said, "No, you're going to the women's ward." And I freaking lost it. And I'm like, "No, I can't go to the maternity ward. Like, I need to go to oncology." And, and they're like, "No, that's just where you're going." And I'm like, "Well, my doctor made notes in my chart." And they're like, "Oh, we don't see them anywhere." I'm like, "Okay."
'Cause you don't read the chart or
Probably, probably.
oh my god.
Because I just knew I couldn't handle being around, like, all the babies, like, everything at that moment.
Yeah.
Like, I knew I
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to handle it. So, I asked to be moved several times. I asked for an advocate. They refused to move me. They my husband, because he was now my husband, he was with me all night, and they also didn't get me dinner because I got in there so late, and they said that if he left, he would not be able to come back in, so he couldn't even leave to get me food to come back in. It was crazy. So, I think I ended up finally, like, getting something from the vending machine. Like, having a friend I know get me something from a vending machine because she happened to work there at the hospital, so she was able to do that.
Is that even
So,
legal? Like, aren't they supposed to feed you after
mhm,
surgery? Like, that's a
mhm,
thing
mhm.
for your health.
And then they're like, "Oh, the kitchen's closed." I'm like, "I don't care." Like, figure it out, like, or let my husband go up the street and get me food and come back with it. Like,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Yeah. 'Cause I wasn't even allowed to leave until I ate like, drank juice and ate a
Mhm.
snack.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was
Yeah.
starving. Every single time I wake up and I'm like, "I want a freaking cheeseburger," because 'cause
Yeah.
I'm always
Yeah.
so hungry.
Yeah.
So,
God.
um So yeah, I ended up being in the maternity ward all night. They put me in the very back corner of the maternity ward so they wouldn't have to check on me very often. I was like very, very back room. Um, I laid there all night listening to the babies crying, family celebrating, and then that stupid music they play every time a baby's born. Like,
Oh my god.
yeah, it
They do
sucked.
that?
Yeah. Every single time. It was torture. Like, I cried all night. I there was one nurse I was talking to, and I'm like, "Just move me, like, you don't understand. I've done fertility treatments. I had to have this removed because, like, I was so sick, like, I can't stand this, I'm going freaking insane right now. And
Yeah.
I was begging her, and she started crying, so she tried to get help from the head nurse, and the head nurse is like, "No, we're not moving you. You're stuck." I'm like, "Okay." So my husband didn't leave me that night because 'cause I'm like, "I don't know what they're gonna do, but
Yeah.
don't leave me." So,
Yeah,
it was
they
horrible.
sound terrible. Like, what?
Mhm. Yeah.
That's insane because, like, it would be one thing to be like, "Oh my god, we're so sorry we messed up. There's literally
Yeah.
no room in oncology, like, we can't," like, some logistical thing, like, that would still be super messed up, and they should still find a way to move you somewhere else. There's gotta be
Yeah.
room somewhere
Somewhere
else in the
else.
hospital,
Anywhere else. Yeah.
but I bet, like, based on everything I've heard and the things that I get see in my comments on TikToks, like, you were probably already labeled as the whiny woman
Mhm.
in their charts,
Yep.
the
Yep.
ones they were actually reading, I
I
guess.
was for
And
sure.
so
Yeah. I
immediately
found that out
difficult
later.
patient. Yep. Oh, did you find out for sure?
Yeah, yeah, I found out later.
Oh my god. And see,
So crazy.
lawsuit. Like, where are the lawyers doing lawsuits for this kind of thing?
Mhm.
That's what I wanna
They
know.
don't wanna do it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I, um I remember too, we kept calling the advocate over and over and over again, like, annoying the crap out of them. Because 'cause I'm like, "What else are we doing? Nothing." And then the
Yeah.
head nurse is like, "Would you stop calling them?" And I'm like, "Well, would you move me? Then you don't have to deal with me. Like, then we're
Yeah.
good, you know?"
Exactly.
Like, just
Did
freaking
they
move
give
me.
any reasoning at all?
They just said it wasn't in the chart. And I'm like, "It was in the chart. I saw him put it in the chart."
Mhm. It also
So,
doesn't matter, really. Like,
yeah,
it's
it
the chart
doesn't.
isn't like the law.
It was written
It
in a few different places too. So, later they ended up saying, "Oh, it's because your last name changed." And I'm like, "It has nothing to do with what's in my chart. It's the same thing. It doesn't matter." So, um,
ugh.
I ended up even telling them, I told the nurse, the one that was, like, trying to get me moved and stuff, I was like, "Could you guys just fucking kill me right now? Because I don't wanna be here
Mhm.
anymore. Like, my life is over, everything is over, there's no reason for me to be here anymore, like, I don't wanna be here anymore, just freaking give me something and kill me." And,
Yeah.
she was like she got super upset about that. I remember looking at my husband's crying, but there's nothing that he could do, like,
Right.
and they wouldn't even move me to the psych ward after that. They're
I
like,
was gonna
"No."
say you immediately should have been moved to psych, like, for
Yeah.
that
I didn't know that at the
kind of thing.
time. Yeah. Yeah.
That
They
is
should have moved me psych.
insane.
Yeah,
Oh
and
my
they would
god,
not.
because and you're recovering like, you literally just woke up from surgery, however many hours of anesthesia, like, that
Yeah.
doesn't leave you for a couple weeks, like, your brain's all jumbled up for a while after
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
and then, for them to just, like to write you off like that and just dismiss you like that when you're already, like, struggling. You're
Mhm.
probably in pain, you're struggling through, like, this crazy, like, brain fog, you're in
Right.
and out of a fever dream waking up from
Mhm.
surgery, and then you've got all these babies crying around you and families celebrating,
So
and
crazy.
that's so messed up, and I mean, like, I'm so sorry that happened
Happens a
to you.
lot. It's
That's
crazy. It's so
is
crazy.
have you heard from other well, like, I don't know if you've ever like, if there were any internet groups or anything, or if you've heard that similar situation happening with other women?
I've heard of it happening with other women.
Okay.
They that night too, they ended up telling me that I needed to be quiet, stop crying, and because I was scaring the other patients in the other room. And I
Good.
go, "Okay."
Let me ruin this
They
wonderful
can
day for
go
them
for
and
it.
blame it on you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine. I Yeah, that my surgeon, he ended up coming in the next morning because by the time I got in there, like, it was already past 5, he was already gone, like, there's nothing we can do to get a
Ugh,
hold of
yeah.
him.
Right.
He ended up coming in very next morning, first thing when he got in there, and he's like, "I am so sorry, like, that was not supposed to happen, you were supposed to be put here, I thought everything was set," he apologized so much. I'm like, "Well, it's not you, like, you did what you're supposed to do." And so
Right.
he's like, "I'm gonna get you discharged right now because you don't need to be here anymore. Like, you can go home." And I'm like, "Okay,
Right.
cool." So, he let me go home. Um, but yeah, experiences like that, like, they happen way more often than people tend to realize, especially if you aren't ever in that situation, then you
Mhm.
don't realize it's a thing.
Mhm.
So and it really, like, fucks with you mentally and
Mhm.
emotionally, like, especially when you're in such a vulnerable place, like,
Yeah.
what do you do?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I could have,
Exactly.
like, taken everything off and just walked out of the hospital, but, like,
Right, but then you risk, like, sepsis or
yeah,
something, like
yeah. But at the time, I was like, "I don't give a shit."
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it
Someone should
was it
gotten
was so
fired.
crazy. Yeah, so nuts, but it does happen. I recently talked to a girl, like, maybe a couple months ago that said that she was in the women's ward at her hospital, and that they didn't feed her and that they weren't checking up on her and they were just, like, totally dismissing her. I feel like that also happens a lot,
Well, when you name
which
it
is
the women's
crazy.
ward, and we already know how much, like, ridiculous amount of bias and sexism exists in medicine, not just exists in medicine, but is the foundation of
Mhm,
modern medicine. And you're gonna name something the woman's ward and throw everything from maternity to endo to hysterectomy, so, like, pretty much anything that's not cancer in
mhm.
the woman's ward if they're a woman. That doesn't make any sense, and show me the man's ward. Show me where the men's ward
Yeah,
is.
there's none.
Because just because you're a woman doesn't mean that you belong in a maternity ward. And if you
Yeah,
can't see the problem with that, you're a part of the problem
yeah,
because that's insane to
yeah.
just equate. And that was the other thing I was going to say. We put so much fucking pressure on women to make babies and
Mhm,
basically tell them that it's their entire worth and their entire value. And then obviously you have women who want nothing more than to have a
mhm,
child and they're in a situation where they can't for whatever reason. You've got their own like internal things going on. You're telling them from a societal perspective that it's some big moral failure. And then
mm,
you're going to surround them with like just the lack of compassion. I don't understand who goes to nursing school and spends all of those hours and all of that debt to act like that with not an
mhm.
ounce of compassion. And I mean, obviously, the majority of nurses are incredible, and I'm not like,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, but yeah,
bashing on nurses right now, but the fact that there are nurses like that that exist is actually crazy and
yeah.
not okay.
I
Yeah.
feel like when we have surgery for endo, we should be put in oncology,
Yeah.
100%,
Well, we don't even
100%.
have a
Right.
good classification for endo, and it's
Mhm,
the closest thing in terms of how severe it can get and
mhm.
the way it spreads, like, it just I agree,
And
and
yeah,
it could
I
be
don't know
taken more
about
seriously.
other yeah, yeah, exactly. I don't know about other hospitals either, but it's like when I was at that hospital and they did put me in oncology, oh my god, it was day and night difference between how I was treated. Just it just blows my mind.
And that
Oncol
already should open an
Yeah,
investigation.
that's
That's
crazy.
crazy.
So insane. Like, yeah, they were so nice, like, "Oh, do you need anything?" I remember after, one of my surgeries when I was in there, they're like, I had, like, the biggest, most biker dude nurse, and he was, like, the best nurse I've ever had in my entire life, and he's like, "Do you need pads?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll take them." So he went and he, like, got me all these freaking pads and put them in, like, 3 big bags and was like, "Here, take them home." I'm like, "Oh my god, you're amazing."
That's
So
amazing.
funny. But
I
yeah,
love
it's like
that.
yeah, and I think they just know how to deal with people with long-term illnesses a little better in oncology than they in the
Mhm.
women's ward, they don't give a shit if you're not having a baby,
Mhm.
and they don't know how to treat you, so they just treat you
Exactly.
like shit a lot of the time, which isn't for
Yeah.
everybody, but
Yeah, no, I am glad that you're bringing awareness to this because it's honestly not even something I thought about. I was always under the impression that at every hospital, a maternity ward was a maternity ward and it was for having babies.
mm-mm,
I honestly had no idea that it was like a mix. And I didn't stay, mine was an outpatient procedure. And then since it got pushed back so long, they did tell me that I could stay overnight if I wanted.
Mm,
And I was like, "I really don't. I really don't want to." So I
yeah.
think I was just in a normal, like, I was so out of it, I don't even know where I was. I think it was just a normal, like, surgery recovery, not high risk type, whatever
Mhm.
that would be. But since I wasn't staying overnight, I don't know if I did, I don't know where I would have been placed, but that's really
Yeah,
interesting. I've
right.
never really considered that before, so
Yeah,
wow.
it's crazy. But even now, like, with the last 2 surgeries I've had them at the same hospital because there's really no other choice with insurance, but I've told them, I'm like, "I wanna go home." Like,
Mhm.
that day, unless something catastrophic happens, like,
Right.
where I'm fighting for my life, I need to go home.
Mm,
And, even my significant other now, like, I've told him, I'm like, "If they keep me, like, do not leave me alone because
yeah,
I don't know what's" like, it's so sad that you have to do that, but I'm like,
yeah.
"Don't leave me alone because you don't
Yeah.
know," you know?
You don't, and when you're
So
in that state, like, especially when I was younger, I was much more, like, naive to the goings on in the medical system when it comes to women, but
mhm.
even now that I know how hard you have to advocate for yourself, recovering from surgery, you can't, like, I couldn't even get the nurse to get me the ice chips. Like, I wanted, like, my mouth was
Yeah.
so dry, and I asked for the ice chips, and she put them, like, out of my reach because I fell back asleep.
Oh.
And then, like, I couldn't get them and I couldn't speak to say anything, and they weren't really paying attention, and I was like, "Hello?" So
"Hi,
it's like,
I'm here."
yeah, the we need we need a major overhaul of the way that, a
Yeah.
lot of medical professionals are trained, particularly when it comes to women. So, I
Yeah.
mean, I applaud you for sharing your story and speaking so openly about it because I know it's not easy. Like, it's a very, very difficult thing to go through and then
Mhm.
to share, but I know for a fact that this is gonna open a lot of people's eyes and definitely help other women either in similar situations or help them prepare so they know. Do you have any advice now on the other side of the situation if a woman is like, "Yeah, no, I'm going in for a hysterectomy." Do you have any advice on the other side of it? I mean, you did everything
Man,
that
I
you could,
know.
but
That's what I think, like, I
it's
think I did
yeah.
everything I could. I mean, I think the only different thing I would do is ask to be put as the first patient of the day so that by the time you're moved, it's still during normal hours, and so if something
Mhm.
happens, then you could still reach out to the surgeon
There you
because the
go.
surgeon is still I mean, should still be there, essentially. You
Right.
know, or maybe even have the doctor write a note, like a physical note that your
Mhm.
person can have. Be like, "No,
Mhm.
this is what it is," you
Right.
know? But, the last couple surgeries I've had at that hospital, though, they've been like everybody's been super nice, like, I haven't had any bad experiences, so, hopefully all that is done.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Good. Good.
Fingers
Oh,
crossed.
well, yeah. We're coming up on the end here. This has been an amazing conversation. I have one more question that I wanna ask just kind of with, where you're at now, and, I guess how your symptoms have changed and how your relationship with your body has changed throughout all of these years, 8 different surgeries, a lot of
It's a
both
lot.
mental and physical trauma. Where are you at now?
I think I'm in a really good place now because I don't feel as bad as like I did before my last surgery. My last surgery
Mhm.
was a little over a year ago, and they removed endo from my diaphragm, so that
Mhm.
was causing me a lot of issues with like breathing and everything. And then I was terrified. I know everybody kind of goes back and forth between if you have it on your diaphragm, do you have surgery? Do you not have surgery? And it's such, like, a personal choice, but I decided to do that because I didn't want it going into my chest cavity, and I
Mhm.
already have a bad heart, so I didn't want that to be a thing. But since that surgery, like, I feel a lot better. I still have symptoms, I still have, like, the endo flu, like, I know
Mhm.
it's not all gone, it doesn't all leave. It's impossible to get every little bit of it. And it's hard because when they do surgery, they only do your abdominal area.
Mhm.
They can't look in your arms or your wrists or anything for
Yep.
surgery or for endo,
Yeah.
they don't look in your head. So I
Right.
think that's, like, the biggest struggle, like, mentally right now is I'm like, "Where else could it be right now?" Like, I have back pain, is it in my back? Like, it's
Yeah.
kind of a mind fuck in a
Mhm.
way.
For
So
sure.
but overall, I do feel, like, a lot better physically than I did before. So that
Good.
makes me happy. Yeah.
Good.
And I have
Yeah.
more energy. So that's why I do all the
Oh, that's
TikToks and
awesome.
everything too, because like I have the energy. So many people don't have the energy to do it. It's exhausting to make TikToks. Like
It really is.
it really is so hard. Yeah, yeah. Um and and I started noticing like a lot of people reach out and they're like you could just tell how desperate they are for answers because they're
I
not
know.
getting their answers and it's so sad. It sucks,
It really,
So,
really
ooh,
it's yeah,
yeah,
I totally get that because 'cause I'm like, I want to respond to every single person and every single question in the best way I can, but
yeah.
I'm one person, and that's why I make the videos too, like,
Mhm.
I'm like, "Scroll through my page," like, I've definitely talked about this before within the last month or so, like but yeah, and also with the podcast too, it's always nice when there's a question where I can point to a specific episode where I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
this person went through this, or this person has advice for this, or I talked to this doctor," or whatever, but
Yeah.
yeah, there's only so much we can do as, like, one individual person, but
Yeah.
just sharing your story is, like is plenty, is so much.
Yeah.
It helps so many people and, like, we've established it's not easy. It's
No.
definitely takes some bravery and
Mhm.
resilience for sure, so
Yeah.
yeah. So thank you so much for coming
Yeah.
on and sharing everything so openly and honestly. It really was an amazing conversation. I know that so many people are gonna relate to a lot of the things you say. And I think that's the one kind of thread between us with everybody who
Mhm.
has endo is like you can have really different cases and different situations and different bodies, but there's just always some similarities and just, like,
Mhm.
I get that even if I don't get, like, the exact same symptom, I get the feeling, you know?
Yeah,
I get
for
the
sure.
exhaustion, I get it. So,
Yeah, for
yeah, it's
sure.
really a beautiful community for sure.
Yeah, yeah. We have the strongest people that I've ever met in my life, I will tell you
Yeah,
that.
yeah, it's so true. Yeah, and you're one of them for sure.
Thank you. You are too.
Yeah. Thanks. Well, thank you so much, Amanda. I will make sure that your TikTok is linked for everybody in the show notes so you guys can go check out some more of her content.
If anybody has, like, questions or anything, like, reach out. I don't mind sharing my story or my
Mhm.
experiences or, like, if you have any specific questions about anything, like, I'm always an open book, so don't feel like you
Awesome.
can't, so
Awesome. That's great. So I'll make sure that everyone has your TikTok below in the show notes. Thank you so much for being here and class dismissed.
thank you.